Hello, beautiful souls. I hope you're doing well. So, welcome to this creative intuitive transmission today, which bears the title Become the Leader of Your Life. And it's going to go more in depth than just the leader of your life. It's about being becoming a leader in the metaphorical sense of it, in terms of being sovereign as a Terran and Terra. But I'll go back to that in a minute. I have to say, things are, I don't know about you guys, but I feel that a lot of things are changing energetically lately, and a lot of things are transforming, mutating. And I find this is happening also in my own practice. Today, as every Monday, I was, putting myself in a place of going within and meditation and connection to the heart to receive an inspiration for today's message in this CIT session. And as I was doing so, something very clear, very, very clear came, which was this topic of being a leader and what it is to be a leader, either of your own life or just a leader in general. But something very strange happened is that I was really clearly inspired not to use music anymore in my CITs. And I was like, oh, okay. Um, and so lately I made a very conscious choice to really let myself be less in the controlling tendencies that I have as a bit of a previously quite anxious person. I used to, be very organized and controlling just to make sure everything's safe in my environment. And I've decided to allow a little bit more source and the Mella collective, my soul cluster, which is basically my soul cluster, which I'm connected through the heart, to inspire things rather than just me controlling everything. And in that vein of change, well, they have really let me know it's a kind of a knowing thing. It's more like clear cognizance rather than clear audience in my case. And they just kind of let me know that it was time to move on from the whole music thing that was part of the CITs. And their reason for that is that they want me to really focus more on the message itself that's being transmitted to you through me. I'm not a channeler. Again, I repeat this. This is information that I feel from my heart, out of the connection I have with the Mela Collective, which is my soul cluster I'm part of. But I think they really feel that the word messages should be more the focus, as well as the visual aspect, because after all, I am an iconographer and this is really what my specialty is. So continuing the CITs with bringing a collage of Japanese washi chiyogami paper that I create, and also talk about the background that's usually inspired by the Mela Collective behind me. But they have suggested, and it's never an imposition, they don't impose things on me, but I really felt it like it made sense to stop bringing the musical aspect to the CITs. So some people are going to be happy about it because some people don't necessarily resonate with the whole music thing, and perhaps not with the type of music I was sharing. Some people will be sad because they're like, oh, I like the music things, and that kind of what makes it really original, and I liked having the vibes of the music. So I truly apologize for the second group. This is kind of how things are going right now. It also means that since I'm not sharing the music anymore, I'm not going to be sharing the actual process of creation of the collage, because this is kind of something I was using as a background for you to listen to the music, and not necessarily to see how the collage is created, because it's pretty obvious how the collage is created, and you don't necessarily to see, it's not necessary to see like how each collage is made, because it's usually made in the same kind of way. So what Mela really suggests to me is that they still wish for these videos to be relatively short, like about 30 minutes, rather than like a long hour or 2 hour or whatever. And because of that, if we cut the whole discussion about music and description of, musical artists and things like that, it will give more opportunity and more time to really focus on the message that needs to be transmitted. So that's how things are, and we have to be. I've made a CIT on that. I've made a CIT on that, on the acceptance of change. So hopefully, we need to allow change. myself and others regarding what's happening. So today I'm not going to talk about music, but I will present the collage that I've created today, which is entitled Taorîn, and also we'll talk about the background here, which I'll address in a minute, because first of all, the focus will be mostly on the today's transmission or message, if you want, or communication. So what Mella really inspired me to talk about today through this topic of becoming the leader of your life is obviously this notion of becoming sovereign on Terra as you know, as Terrans, to be sovereign regarding what has been imposed on us by either the deep state or negative extraterrestrials or whatever. And even sometimes the lower astrals and things like that, and just become sovereign again, and put our 2 feet down in the ground and say, this is what I am, this is what I want, this is and this is what I don't want anymore. So this is kind of a really kind of obvious discussion about becoming the leader of your life, in that sense that it's time for each of us to stop being submitted to programs, systems, matrices, beings, governments, whatever things that are really imposing things on us. So that's kind of obvious, right? That's one level of it. However, they also wish to touch upon 2 other levels, which are really interesting. And the image I was really offered, which is an image that really resonates with my own personal psyche, is this character of Aragorn in The Lord of the Rings, either the books by Tolkien, but obviously also the beautiful movies that were made out of this trilogy of The Lord of the Rings. And Aragorn is a very interesting character. Personally, it's one of my most favorite one, if not to say my favorite one in terms of male characters. Of course, I love Gandalf, and I love also a bunch of female characters. But Aragorn for me is very important because for me, he really represents the essence of the sacred masculine. And he also, for me, represents the essence of what a real leader should be. And so I will use the figure of Aragorn, which I'm sure a lot of you know, because, many of you are big fans of Lord of the Rings, either through the movies or the books. I will use the figure of Aragorn to really kind of give concrete examples about the different levels of finding becoming a leader in your life, because he really exemplifies this, and it's really easy to see the example. So, one of the levels that the Mella Collective wanted to address regarding becoming a leader is also first of all, the inner leadership of the different facets of ourselves. Within ourselves, as I've discussed in the past through other CITs, and we have many aspects to us. We have we have a shadow, for example, and the shadow work and the healing and transmutation work can also be very good in order to include our shadow within ourselves rather than reject it, being in denial of it, and then it just comes and bite you in the rear end. So being at peace with your shadow and do the inner work to do the shadow work is really important. So your shadow becomes a facet of yourself. Then you obviously have all the other facets of yourself, such as, I don't know, they can be related to your emotions, the facets which are more positive, the facets which are more negative, facets which are more benevolent, happy, giving, generous. You can have also facets of yourself which are more rigorous and disciplined. And, I think you pretty know what I mean, that each of us have within us, at least those people who do the inner journey, discover that they have within us, they're like a diamond, and the diamond has different facets with different aspects of us, and often it can be related to, for example, previous lives or parallel lives or multidimensional lives we have, and that have made us learn about an aspect of our soul, because our soul are huge. Our soul is made of all of out of all the experiences we've had in our different lifestyles and lifetimes. And, some days we might have been a conquering Viking, or we could have been a gentle praying nun. We could have been an aggressive, whatever, torturing person. We could have been a savior. We could have been a prophet. We could have been a creator. There's an infinity of things we have been in our lives, in our previous lives, in multidimensional lives, which happen simultaneously. And because of that, the diamond that we are as a fractal of source is that through all these experiences, we have become multifaceted. We have all these different elements to ourselves. People who feel like they're star seeds and have connection to perhaps more than one galactic nation, for example, or perhaps, well, they'll feel that, some part of them is very one thing, and then another part of them is really something else and has to do with different connections to different star nations, for example. So that's another example. It can be the case also for Terra, which are typically Terran, and we'll feel a connection with, previous lives they experienced, like I've just said, in different contexts and cultures and societies. So we're complex beings. And in that way, it is as if we had within ourselves a whole community of facets. And it's really important, as the Mella collecting was inspiring me to share about, is that it is important to become the leader, the great benevolent, sage, wise leader of this community of facets within ourselves. Because when we are the great, the beautiful, benevolent, and wise leader of ourselves, of the different facets of ourselves, we're not being controlled by any one of them, and we are keeping the peace and keeping the harmony in our own inner kingdom, if you want, from all these facets. So then there's another level here of interpretation of what becoming the leader of your life is all about. You become that inner leader of the facets of yourself. So that's another part of the journey, is to become, well, I would say it's actually the first part of the journey. You start there. You start being the great leader of your own inner facets. So this way you're completely in harmony and kind of, I'm not going to use the word control, but I mean, you're having a general view of things, and you're able to make sure that there's balance and harmony between the different facets of yourself. Then comes the second level I talked about before, which has to do with becoming the sovereign leader of your own life, where it's not just the leader of your own facets, inner facets, but it's also about you and the exterior. Like, you say yes or no to what comes towards you, maybe positive or regressive, and you just establish that equilibrium and that harmonious relationship to the exterior of yourself. So that's kind of the second level. And then we have, we would call, if you want, the third level, which is about becoming a leader in the more typical sense of the word, as it's not so much to become a king or ruler, but more a leader in the sense of inspiring others and helping and supporting others, and also in their own growth and spiritual journey and inner journey and soul growth. And in that way, I mean, being a leader is not just, like I said, about being a spiritual leader or a country's leader. It's about being a leader where you just bring others to their beautiful strength, inner strength, and you give them the opportunity to bloom by being so the leader of your own inner self and of your exterior. Then you're centered, you know where you are, your feet are on the ground, your head is in stars, and you're perfectly grounded. You know who you are, and because you're that, you're able to inspire others to become as well leaders. And Alex Colliers use often this expression of, we as Terrans, we are a race of leaders. And he often uses that expression. And as you can see in this expression, it's not about one person becoming the leader of others. It's more about all of us becoming a leader per se, for ourselves, for our life, but also for others, in the sense that we inspire others. And so I think it's really important that we become a race of leaders, in the sense that we become sovereign. We become all knowing of ourselves, of our capabilities, of our limits as well, and inspire also others to grow with us. And for me, that's really what the real leader is all about. So I will exemplify this through the image or the character, which is almost an archetype of Aragorn. As you probably know, Aragorn is a man who is genetically from a line of kings, okay? And as we are all humans, since, all humans have a genetic richness that comes from the 20, I think it's 22 extraterrestrial races that brought their genetics within us. So we're unique in that way, and we're very powerful in that way, multidimensional, and we're jewels in that way. And a little bit like that, each of us is a little bit of an Aragorn, where we have this genetic royalty within us in a way. But what's beautiful about the story of Aragorn, and that's why I love him so much, is that he is afraid of his power. Not so much, it's not so much that he's afraid of it, but he's not comfortable about it because of his lineage of previous kings who were really into power and having power and control. He didn't want that because because he was a mix of elf and human. He had a lot of wisdom, natural wisdom from being born from both people, but also because he lived a long, 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 long life because he was partly elvish. And so this long life gave him also the experience of learning humility, and humility is wisdom. And when I say humility, I'm not talking about false humility or false modesty or just pushing yourself down. No, this is not what I mean. Humility is actually a sign of great self-confidence and trust. So he is in humility. He's someone who actually doesn't want to have power. He's not searching for it. He's not fighting for it. He doesn't want it almost. And he becomes this ranger, this anonymous man walking the north, regions, and with a hood on his head to be anonymous. And he's learning a lot from his experiences, and he's helping tons of people in their quests. And obviously, he will also help Frodo and all the community of the Ring to, in this beautiful quest that the Lord of the Rings is all about. So he's not searching for power. He's not looking for it. He doesn't want it. Okay, so that's really for me, that's really an important point about being a leader, is that if you're desperately searching for popularity, being the cool person, having a big ego, either spiritual ego, whatever ego, and just wanting to be known and seen and have a lot of power, for me, you're not naturally a good natural leader. You're just a person in desperate search for power, because usually it's because you don't have self-confidence and you haven't done the inner work and you're just into your ego. However, the real leader is the one who doesn't want the power, but that is at some point in his or her journey is offered that power. And there will be a decision process there where they will say, well, do I take that responsibility or I don't? And they always have the choice. And that happens to Aragorn as well. When he decide, when there's a lot of steps during the quest of the ring and everything, where Aragorn is confronted to the decision of accepting his role as heir of the kingdom he's part of. He was originally from. So he doesn't want that power, but he's invited at some point, and he kind of has to get into his shoes of the leader figure in order to help the quest of humanity to recover its sovereignty and freedom. And so he grudgingly accepts to do it, but not because he wants power. And, he would almost prefer to just continue to be a ranger and not have nobody knows him. But he has to take that role because it's part of his soul contract. And he does it. And he does it well because he does it with wisdom, he protects his people. He's a good leader because he's not about me, I'm so good, look at me. It's about the real leader. And this is really a super important point. The real leader is the one who brings, how can I say this? Brings forward the power, the beauty, and the amazingness of the people he is, I wouldn't say even responsible for, but that he's kind of having a responsibility for, I guess. So a good leader, a good king would be someone who would say, oh, look at this person. He's amazing. He's great at what he's doing. You know, he's going to put that person forward. That's what a great leader does. He or she puts people's power, gifts, talents forward. That's what a good leader does. It's not about me, I'm so good, look at me. So this is what we are encouraged, all of us, to do and to be, is to become that loving figure like Aragorn, which really represents for me the sacred masculine, because it's about protecting, loving, being strong and confident, and like, you know, basically what the male energy is encouraged to be. But again, when I say male energy, I don't mean just men. I also mean, because all women and men have the female and masculine, sacred feminine and sacred masculine within them, hopefully well balanced. And so the sacred masculine energy is this energy of like protection, supporting others, protecting them, being benevolent and loving to them, being loving to them. But at the same time, and mostly this is really the whole point, is to put forward their gifts, put forward their talents, and bring them up. You know, that's really the point of a leader. And so the reason why we are invited to reflect on this notion of being a benevolent leader, a good leader, for ourselves first, for our environment, and eventually in our profession, for example, or in our soul mission, it's to really, really focus on this need of being the good leader, which is the one who brings others with him or her, or better than that, actually puts them forward. This is my perception, at least, of what a good leader is. And to give you very specific examples of that, you know, in many of us in this, for example, in this galactic community, we are discovering more and more who we are, because many of us are doing the inner work, which is wonderful and it's very useful. So we recover who we are, we recover memories from our perhaps, I don't know, our connections with galactic people or with inner earth people, or we discover that we are a Terra and we're not galactic, we're starseed envoy, and all of this is wonderful. But then we're wondering, okay, now, what's my role, what's my mission? And a lot of people are a little bit afraid and shy to really go on with their mission. They tend perhaps sometimes to admire other people, or they put them on the pedestal, or they follow them. I'm not crazy about the following people thing. I think all of us are a race of leaders, so all of us are leaders, and all of us could become YouTubers. All of us could become healers. All of us could become disclosure speakers. All of us, what I'm trying to say is that I see a lot of people in the community are like, oh, this person is doing great job, so I follow him or her. But I mean, you have things to say. You have memories to share. You have experiences to share. Not everybody is comfortable with being a YouTuber. I get that. Some people don't like to be seen physically. Well, I don't know. You can have a podcast, which is just the voice. You could write blog posts. You could participate in sharing your experiences through books, or you could write books. You could just be anonymous and just send a lot of love to people around you, which is also a beautiful way of being a leader, which is more anonymous, but is beautiful. But instead of being someone who follows movements or others or individuals, why not become that inner leader, that exterior leader, and that beautiful soul leader that brings others forward and support them in that way? So this is really the essence of this message that the Mella Collective wish to share with us today. If we look at our background, it's really interesting, because the background that I was inspired to us was these beautiful large, they almost look like Vogel cut, Vogel irradian cut crystals, which represent this enormously strong, powerful crystals, because crystals are extremely powerful. I mean, they're amongst the most purest elements in the universe. And here we have this bundle of beautiful, powerful crystals with an inner light, which is beautiful. There's an inner light there. And to me, it represents a little bit like a castle or something like that, which is really related to this image of the central place, the central figure that is represented by a sort of castle or the king or queen, whatever, which is just metaphorical, but represents the central place where power is. And that represents the power within ourselves, but also sometimes the way we can act as a leader, we become like the central power of something where we are inviting others to also emerge and share their strength. But in this image, we have the central force, and then around it, you have these, within this kind of foggy cloud environment, you have these bushes or trees or little islands, which could represent the individuals that are around a potential leader. And that doesn't mean that each of these islands should not be a leader themselves, which is the whole purpose of this message today. They are. But what it represents in this metaphor of the leader is that this central figure will help and enlighten others, but mostly bring them the opportunity to make their own light express itself and bring their beautiful talents to the front. And this is really what I see in this beautiful imagery here. Now, let's have a look at our Japanese washi paper collage that I've created today, which is called Taorîn, and which is spelled here, Taorîn. And then here's the collage. So interestingly enough, the collage has for background a black paper with golden writings, which is Japanese script. I thought it was interesting that it was a kind of a black energy, because for me, black doesn't necessarily mean regressive. But I tend to associate black color, especially in my collages, to a more masculine energy, a more sacred masculine energy. So in this case, obviously, when I talk about leader, I obviously mean males and females, okay, kings and queens. But what I think personally that this notion of being a good leader is a very kind of yang type of movement or energy, which is more proactive than receptive. So I felt that the black really illustrated this sort of sacred masculine, powerful element there. And the golden writing there for me symbolizes a little bit like the rules, not the dogmas, but more like the intrinsic rules to certain things that go with also being kind of a leader. You know, you have certain rules to respect in order for harmony to take place. But these writing is done in gold. So for me, gold is always associated with the wisdom of source, or the fractal of source that we are. So there's really this notion of leadership, but mostly kingly, kind of sacred masculine energy with this background. Then we have that central large circle, which is a mix of gold and black, again, like the background, which for me represents this central figure, a little bit like the, you know, the crystals here, or the castle, the metaphorical castle where the king or the leader lives in, which is basically can be represented by your inner sovereignty, your own strength, your own central space that's well, you know, well grounded, and is in equilibrium between source and the darker aspects, and shadow and light, which are represented here by the mix of black and golden little scale-like motif. Then we have a connection to Terra, which is represented by this red lower circle with the branches and the flowers, which represent the importance of being extremely grounded as a being, but also and thus as a leader. To be grounded in a reality is not just about being like a spiritual woo-woo thing. It's about also grounding your spirituality in your life. In being a leader is also being a leader in every aspects of your life. And just being kind of disciplined and harmonious in that, keeping harmony in that way. The red circle for me also represents the connection to the heart. So it's really absolutely quintessential for any being, but also for any leader, is to be connected to our hearts, because this is the way we're going to have benevolence, compassion, empathy for ourselves and others. So this is an important aspect. Then the upper circle represents birds in flight on a golden background, which really represents a more etheric aspect, perhaps related more to spirituality. So there's this grounding between being grounded on Terra, as the grounded starseed channel means, but also being connected to your higher self, to your soul, to source, and having this beautiful equilibrium and harmony in order to become the great leader of your own life and become a general leader to help others. Then we have these two central circles, navy blue in color. The one below is more representing waves, which to me in this case represents water and the more emotional aspects of things. So emotions, it's important to know your emotions, to not deny them, to process them, to transmute them, to let go of them and let them be fluid in your life. So that's really important to be a good leader to yourself, but being a good leader for others. Then the upper circle is more star-like. So for me, I associate it more with the realm of the mind. So emotion versus mind, where having a good connection to your mind is also important, because mind is not a bad thing. It's just, it becomes negative when it's out of balance, like the same thing with the ego. But the mind in itself is a useful tool to function and to be, it's important. So emotions and mind and the equilibrium between both is crucial. And then finally, we have these two beautiful golden branches, which are made of a gold paper with the flower of life motif, which as always represents the notion of blooming into source energy, or the fractal of source that we all are individually as individual leaders of our own lives. And in that way, we become connected to source, and from our emotions, from our mind, from our heart, from everything that's at the center of us. And then we can become and bloom into this amazing leader as a person, but also a leader as in the communities we are about to engage, because it becomes, as Alex keeps repeating, it's really, really important that we're not just staying in the stars and focusing on that, but also regrounding on Terra and reminding ourselves that being a leader on Terra is also helping build new communities, helping create new ways of doing things. It can be in the realms of finance, in the realm of food production, in the realm of arts, in the realm of, I'm not crazy about political, but I would say in providing a leadership that's positive and benevolent, compassionate, empathic, and all of these things are important things in which we can exert our powers as leaders, but in a good sense of the word leaders. All of us are leaders, and in that way we can contribute into making our communities healthier, and start a new world, because this one is definitely crumbling right now, as we know, and it's time to rebuild. So this is the message for today. So I hope this message was inspiring to you, because I think we're really, really all invited to become our inner leaders, and leaders of a race of leaders, because we can all not only be sovereign and have something to bring, but also we can also be the great leader that puts people's forward and puts forward their talents, their capacities, and that's what a real leader does. So this collage, Taorîn, is the original collage is available, as well as a digital file are both available in my art shop at abigaëllerichard.com if you feel inspired by this message and by the high vibrations and high frequencies that always imbue the artwork I create with the message that I received. And that's the case not only for the original artwork, but also for the digital file. So that's it for today. I'm not, like I said, there's no more music and there's no more showing of how the collage is done. So the video stops here, and I hope you will have enjoyed it. You will have enjoyed the message and the collage. And yeah, I really invite you to become your own inner leader and to really become that leader in your environment where you help and support others becoming who they are and expand their own power. So it's an inspiring thing to do. I love you very much, guys. Take immense care of yourself. Bye. All my gratitude for helping this channel bring high vibrations and high frequencies to more people.